Michael's tried to pick him up, and then it just flopped in Michael's arm, so Michael's laid him on the floor.
Michael and Kerry Ives responded to initial police questions with a series of lies to cover up the horrific state of their grandson.
And then it was fine all day because we took him shopping with us.
Right.
And it was fine, perfect.
Welcome or welcome back, and thanks for being here. I'm Cassie, and this is A Wicked World. The story I have for you today is one that many of you have asked me to cover. It's about a 2-year-old little boy who died in a home with 3 adults who were supposed to be loving and caring for him. And all of these adults quickly began blaming each other for what happened. This is the story of Ethan Ives Griffiths. Ethan Ives Griffiths was born in Wales on April 27, 2019, to his mother Shannon Ives and his father Will Griffiths. He was said to be a smiley, loving, outgoing, sassy, and boisterous little boy. Ethan loved cuddling and playing outside in the garden. He also had 2 older siblings.
Ethan! Hey.
The boy's parents had a tumultuous relationship, and there had been allegations of DV against Will. He was also accused of being aggressive towards a social worker in June of 2021, which led to his arrest. However, Will has always denied these allegations. Now, after he was arrested in June, Ethan's mother Shannon took him and his siblings and went to live with her sister. Just a few weeks later, due to their apartment being so crowded, Ethan was sent to live with his grandparents, Michael and Kerry Ives, at their home on Kingsley Road in Garden City. Then, on July 16th, Shannon joined her son and also moved in with her parents. It was less than a month later, on August 14th, 2021, at 9:20 p.m., that Ethan's grandmother, Kerry, was calling 911, reporting that he had been watching TV when suddenly he collapsed and fell unresponsive. When paramedics arrived at the home shortly after, they rushed little Ethan to Alder Hey Children's Hospital. Here, it was discovered that he had suffered from a catastrophic brain injury. Not only that, but Ethan was also visibly underweight and dehydrated. He had over 40 injuries on his little body. Nurses, who were clearly and understandably upset by what they saw, said that the 2-year-old had a pot belly, similar to children who are malnourished, and he did not look like a child that was cared for. The day after he'd collapsed, Ethan's father, Will, was notified by his mother, Shannon. She told him that their son had taken a tumble and now he was in the hospital. So at that time, Will believed that Ethan had just taken a fall and he was going to be fine. But as he walked into the hospital, he did not even recognize the toddler, whom he hadn't seen for the last 10 weeks.
I got the chance to hold him while he took his final breath. It was very emotional. I'm glad I got to at least hold him in his final moment. At least he knew in his final moment somebody he loved was actually holding him. We got to the hospital. Obviously I'm in high hopes that he is okay and it's not major. I had to go to the room on my own, unfortunately, and I couldn't believe it was my son. It didn't look like Ethan because he was completely different from head to toe. There was no weight there, there was nothing of him. And then obviously the obvious fact of completely covered in bruises. It was a sight of horror.
The next day, on August 16th, Will and other members of his family had to make the difficult decision to remove Ethan's life support, after being told by doctors there was nothing more they could do. When an autopsy was completed, it was found that Ethan had abdominal injuries which had likely been caused by blows in the days before he'd been taken to the hospital. Other injuries included a chipped tooth, tears to his mouth and lip, which had a large chunk missing, and bruises on his leg, arms, and face, which were consistent with grip marks. He additionally had a serious head injury, which looked to have been caused by deliberate force or shaking, and had to have occurred at the time or in the minutes before he collapsed. Had he not obtained that head injury, medical experts said that he would have died due to dehydration in the next couple of days.
He was standing on the rug there, and then I just took my eyes off him for not even 30 seconds, and he's on the floor, and his head's here, on the rug, like face down on the left side. So then I picked him up, and he's just flopped. So then I've rubbed his face and all that, and then I've rubbed his chest, and I've shouted for his mum, so his mum's come running downstairs, and then he came round.
His granddad turned around and said, "Stop messing about now, lad." And Michael's head was turned for literally 2 seconds, and as he's turned back round, Ethan's gone to fall backwards, but Michael's caught him.
Right, okay.
Because the table was over there, so Michael's gone to catch him, and as Michael's gone to catch him, he's gone on his knees, and then Michael's tried to pick him up, and then he just flopped in Michael's arms, so Michael's laid him on the floor. Michael picked him up and took him outside to see if the fresh air would bring him round, but it never, so Michael put a wet cloth on his lips and on his face, and they kept, come on, like, and it won't have none of it.
Regardless of what Ethan's grandparents were saying, it was clear to detectives that the fatal injury the little boy had sustained was not accidental, and all medical evidence pointed to it being almost instantaneous. Therefore, the boy's grandparents, 46-year-old Michael Ives and 45-year-old Carrie Ives, were placed under arrest, and they were charged with murder, causing or allowing the death of a child, and cruelty to a child. Ethan's mother, 27-year-old Shannon, was also placed under arrest, and she was charged with causing or allowing the death of a child and cruelty to a child. The reason why Shannon wasn't charged with murder like her parents were was because authorities were able to confirm that she had been upstairs when Ethan had fallen down. And the only two people who had been in the room with him were Michael and Carrie. This would leave officers convinced that the two had come up with a pact between themselves to try and hide the truth. Now, Ethan had been on the Child Protection Register at the time of his death, and he had been assigned a social worker named Michael Cornish. He was supposed to see him at least every 10 days. Michael had first visited the family's home on July 22, 2021, and he described Ethan as being small and shy. He then arranged for another visit on August 5th, which is more than 10 days away from July 22nd, so I'm not sure why that's the case. But following a conversation that the caseworker had on the phone with Shannon discussing the family isolating due to COVID, he was only able to speak to the mother on the doorstep of the home, at which time she told him that Ethan was taking a nap. A week later, just 2 days before Ethan was rushed to the hospital, Michael Cornish arranged another visit with the family, but when he arrived, there was no answer at the door. So he tried to call Shannon the following day, but again, he got no answer. After that, he'd gone on leave, but emailed his supervisor to provide him updates on the case, and to let him know that someone needed to check on the children in his absence. On August 13th, a health visitor was scheduled to go out to the home, but Shannon would call and cancel this appointment, saying that she was sick. Come to find out, it was actually because Ethan had collapsed that day too. Yes, an entire day before emergency services were contacted. According to the boy's grandfather, Michael, on the afternoon of August 13th, his mother, Shannon, grabbed him by the arms and yelled at him to stand up. before she then smacked him in the back of the head for misbehaving. Michael claimed he told her not to do that to Ethan, but she didn't reply. He added that his daughter had no patience for her son, and she was rather quick-tempered. Michael stated that after that, Shannon left the room with his grandson, and then he heard a bang, like the little boy had hit his head on the floor. He then saw that Ethan had fallen to the rug, and he was unresponsive for about 5 minutes. When the toddler did come back around, he seemed to pick up, Michael stated. So instead of seeking medical attention for his grandson, he and his wife Carrie decided to take him out grocery shopping. Michael claimed this was to keep an eye on him so he wouldn't be alone with his mother. He also told police that he and his wife had asked Shannon if they could bring Ethan to the doctors to get checked out, but she told them no. The grandfather said he did not want to leave the 2-year-old alone with his mother Shannon because of the way she was. The way that she used to smack him up the head or on the back of the legs. He also informed police that on at least one occasion, Shannon had told Ethan that he needed to go fuck off and live in care. Shortly before the toddler's final collapse, Michael said that Shannon took him off into the other room to feed him. And when they returned, Ethan had a red mark near his eye. When Michael asked the mother how he had gotten the injury, she replied that he must have fallen. But he didn't believe her, and he thought that Shannon had to have been the cause of it. The grandfather was adamant that he had nothing to do with Ethan's death or other injuries, and that he was a good granddad. When Ethan's grandmother, Carrie Ives, was questioned by detectives and she was asked how her grandson had sustained his fatal head injury, she said, "I have no idea." She then blamed the bruises on his body due to him being clumsy and a little boy who just walks into things. She said he was very accident-prone. She then claimed that her daughter Shannon would sometimes smack Ethan up the head, even though she and Michael had previously told her not to. Carrie said that she had instructed Shannon to have the toddler stand in the corner instead, but she had been told to mind her own business. According to Carrie, her daughter was always on the phone, ignoring Ethan. She had even been on it texting when he was lying on the floor unresponsive on August 14th. When Ethan collapsed that day, Carrie said that she screamed for her daughter to come downstairs, but Shannon told her to wait 2 minutes because she was on her phone. Carrie had sworn at her daughter and said, "Never mind 2 minutes, he's your baby." This interaction was discovered to have taken place at 9:02 p.m., yet emergency services had not been called for another 18 minutes. Even though both grandparents had been in the room with Ethan when he had fallen unresponsive, and they claimed they had never laid a hand on him, CCTV cameras outside the family's home uncovered something much different. On August 4th, footage taken in the back garden showed Ethan on a trampoline. He is seen being carried off by his grandfather, Michael, by the top of his arm, which prosecutors would later say was as though Ethan was just a bag of rubbish to be slung out. In the video, Michael is also seen pointing a water hose at his grandson, placing his hands on top of his head, then gesturing for another child to come punch him. On August 12th, Ethan was again seen on CCTV, this time leaving the house for the first time in days. And he was again being carried by his arm by Michael out to the car. Once the little boy was put into the vehicle, Michael is seen hitting his arm out twice in Ethan's direction. The next day, the same day that the little boy collapsed for the first time, video footage shows the grandparents walking back into the house and they're mimicking the way that the 2-year-old walks. Now, according to Ethan's mother, Shannon, she had seen Michael take the little boy into the garden on the evening of August 14th. During that time, the toddler started to cry, so Michael grabbed him by the arms and began shaking him, telling him to shut up. Shannon informed police that she had tried to get her father to stop, but he wouldn't. She also stated that she did not seek any medical help for her son at that time because she was terrified of Michael. And she also thought that she might get the blame for Ethan's injuries. Then, about an hour after this incident had taken place in the garden, Shannon said that Ethan collapsed. She insisted that she had told her mother, Carrie, to call an ambulance immediately. But her parents told her that they were going to wait at least 5 to 10 minutes to see if he came back around, like last time. The mother admitted to police that she should have gotten help for her son sooner, but she was being controlled and manipulated by her parents. She said that the reason why she had canceled health appointments and lied to social workers about the little boy sleeping when they had come to visit was all because of them. When Shannon said that she wanted to take Ethan to see the doctor, Michael and Carrie told her not to. They would threaten her and say that if anyone saw the 2-year-old in that condition, he would be taken away. Shannon additionally denied ever hurting her little boy and said that sometimes she would shout at him or tap him on the hand or bottom, but that was the worst she had ever done. She told detectives that when she had joined her son, living at her parents' house back in July, she noticed that he had gone from chunky to skinny. She even had to start buying him smaller clothes because the ones he owned were falling off his body. However, her parents continued to insist that Ethan had been eating 3 to 4 meals every day. Shannon then began noticing that while her son was eating meals, he would keep looking over at her father, Michael, like he was scared. She even witnessed her father making Ethan stand with his legs open and his hands on his head for 1 to 2 hours at a time. But again, Shannon was too terrified of her parents, mainly her father, to get any help for her son. According to her, the reason why she was so scared of them was because she had been mistreated by her mother and father since she was 4 years old. As she got older, they didn't allow her to have any friends or live a normal life. Shannon claimed that Michael would punch her and her siblings, as well as kick them and use a belt on them too. Her mother, Carrie, wasn't as bad as her father, Michael, but she would still strike Shannon from time to time. The thing is, when Ethan had been brought to the hospital, doctors and nurses noticed that Shannon had tried to blame his many injuries on the little boy just learning to walk. This struck them as rather odd, though, given Ethan's age. They also noted that while the mother was tearful at first, she quickly became detached, asking to go home, then becoming fixated on her phone. Shannon additionally asked nurses if she was going to get in trouble for Ethan's death. The trial for Shannon, Carrie, and Michael wouldn't begin until July of 2025. During this time, Carrie and Michael would continue to try to blame Shannon for Ethan's death, and she would blame them. At the same time, Michael also admitted that he was disgusted with himself for the way that he had treated his grandson. And as the jury watched the video of him carrying Ethan to the car by his arm, he said it was a horrible thing for him to have done. When Carrie testified, she said that when Ethan first started living with them, he was a chubby and bubbly little boy, but he would act differently when his mother was around, biting his lip until it bled, or shoving food into his mouth until he choked. She also said that if Ethan ever laughed at Shannon, she would completely lose her temper. Carrie told the court that she had not been around on August 13th, when Ethan had fallen unresponsive the first time. But if she had been, she would have called an ambulance. The next day, she claimed that Shannon had hit Ethan, but he didn't whine or cry. She then suggested that he had learned not to because bad things were happening to him all the time. In the end, the jury would deliberate for close to 7 hours before Michael and Carrie were both found guilty of murder and child cruelty. Shannon was also found guilty of causing or allowing a child's death and child cruelty. All 3 are scheduled to be sentenced on October 3rd. After the trial, Ethan's father, Will, read a prepared statement outside of court, in which he said in part, "Unfortunately, I did not get that much time with Ethan, but the time I did have will never be forgotten, and he will always live on in our hearts and memories. He will be remembered for the smiley, outgoing, loving child that he was. He can now rest in peace, knowing that justice has been served." A memorial has just recently been started at a local park, located in Garden City Center, for little Ethan. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon, so check it out on patreon.com/awickedworld, or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims are never forgotten, and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a story you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email to awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.